Now considering the releasing from captures for both hands. The principles are the same. First, it is necessary to stir up the hands and to feel the opening's capture. Then displace yourself slightly, move backwards and forwards. Feel the freedom of movement which has remained and start to act proceeding from this freedom of movement. If I neatly feel his hands, I can pass my movement over to him through my body. Especially if he holds me tightly, I start to give this tightness back to him. Now I start to twist a hand in its own axis, giving the movement in his direction and starting to twist the hands. I watch how his body starts to change. I add the movement with my legs, forward, back, to the side. I twist myself and put one hand on my hip. The second one I lift upwards. I do these movements either at the same time upwards or simultaneous downwards. Every part of my body should move. Leaving movement and coming movement. Now I start to give him one hand, and with the second one I take away his hand. If this movement is not sufficient, I move forward with my foot and with the second foot, which is at the same side of the body like the backward moving hand. I step back. I twist myself and do a movement as if one hand is pushing and the other one takes away the movement. One hand together with the leg pushes and the second hand twists and takes away the movement and goes back together with the other leg. This is an educational position to understand how my hand moves together with my legs. The same can be made the following way. But here I give one hand and take away the second one. Accordingly, the leg also moves back. It is possible to make pressure on his arm with your elbow from above. I displace myself by doing this. A mistake is when you begin to stretch yourself forward and unbalance yourself. My task is to work around the capture and to move with my whole body. When I displace myself, I control the opponent's movement. There could be an impact. A movement downwards in his elbow is possible. There could also be an impact from the inside. This is how one hand is working. Now watch how one hand is working simultaneous. When one hand is imposed, the second hand begins to twist too. Now look, if I lower the opponent downwards, you should give the second hand away to him. The hand should give away this movement. Because if I don't do this, I lower down here and he will grasp me, so that I cannot unbalance him. Then I won't have any movement. When we do all actions at the same time, we lift the hand, there will be a displacement of his shoulders around his backbone. And now the following action. I add one more movement under his knee to twist his body and unbalance him. It is possible to connect hands and to make a movement upwards with the elbow, as if you enter inside this movement. Further, it is possible to use his fingers by using a painful grasp on his fingers. I control the opponent on the ground. It is possible to work with his little finger, controlling the opponent the same way through his finger. Further, you can work with your foot against his basic leg and twist his arms around his backbone the same way. One giving him and one taking back. Do the same movement with your feet at the same time. It is possible to pull out his hand using the big finger's lever. Release yourself. And in this position my hand is already free and I can strike with it, do impacts with displacement for changing his body position. When an impact with displacement is done, the position of the opponent's body changes and I continue my influence on it. I begin his translation in the laying position and the control over the grip. Here I capture with fingers. Now I capture of his big finger, work with its lever. In this position I can move back in the same position. I can move forward to my opponent. By using his little finger, I go over to the opponent's control. I can also precisely take his pillar and use it for unbalancing. I begin to release myself and take away his leg by keeping moving. It is possible to consider one more principle, the principle of wave movement. A wave movement can change the position of a body and influence captures. When we dump this movement and give it back to the person which grasps, we dump our body through the legs. The wave shakes, rises up and flows into the hand. The hand carries out a mechanical movement. This may happen in a light turn. The movement must be done so that further the management of the opponent's body occurs directly. This way, I pass this effort to the person when the person grasps, and with the levers method, I pull his capture. But I do this already easier, and I do not tear or rip, but I pass to him this power, which is created by my feet and my legs. Now this power is pulled upwards and is given to the opponent through my hands. It is also possible to twist your hand out of the capture, to pull it out, to release it, so that there's no more capture, and to use it for the following movement, for an impact. This is an easier movement, which you can act with. Further, you have to reduce the movements up to a minimum. When the movement begins, it should not completely move from the legs through the whole body, but there should develop a kind of easy vibration, so that you give this movement from a hand directly into the capture. It is not necessary to tear the contact, because it should be left for a further action. I can work with his finger like I do now. I can work with his finger the way I do now. I can work using a lever or work with his joint. I can use this for a further impact, a grasp, for changing, unbalancing and the control over the ground. And from these moments, from the wave moments, we start to feel how the body is working, how my condition is passed to the opponent. But this is already another part of our film. When movement is made, I give him back the pure effort or the pure lever using a lever. Additionally, I am twisting my hand and I'm moving. A wave. When movement is damped. When a movement is taken away, when I take away his power, he captures me and I start to displace this capture. I just work precisely with all principles. When movement starts to flow, I do not allow him to execute capture. But I move. I take away his extremities. I control him. Now we look at captures in the top level. Captures on clothes against the neck. When I was grasped at my clothes, I do not try to pull myself out. I contrary have to cuddle up to this capture and I have to start further actions. You shouldn't break the capture. The capture needs to be used for work. Because this is a contact. This is one contact and this is the second one. And this is a movement. Two powers are combined. There could be an impact, a change of the body's position, the grasp of an elbow. I let him space to fall down and I control him on the ground afterwards. Impact, transformation of movement, leg, rotation, impact, control. Impact, neck capture, with a twisting of the backbone axis and movement aside, and control over the ground. Impact, impact. Now pay attention. When the person grasps, it twists a hand, and this twisted hand already shows the movement in which direction I have to move with the person. Look at the movement. There is a slowly made capture. I take away his hand in the same direction and I move slightly behind his back, take his chin and twist it around his backbone. At the same time, I let him some space where he should fall down. Use an impact. I strike, my elbow moves behind his elbow. I let it pass and begin to move around him. His head is free, one hand is also free, so that I can strike blows and already work with these impacts and start to move. The same way I can use legs or feet, unbalance, use the elbow, because I am in a dense contact. Impact, elbow, neck. It is possible to dump that power which he creates. He has created a powerful force to me. He has some kind of taken me. And I am in a tension and pressure too. Look, I begin slightly to displace myself aside, and his power disappears. He already doesn't really hold me. There appears an empty space for him. After that, I add movement to him, an impact, a twisting movement. Impact, twisting. I take away a hand, I strike an additional blow, I lower him down, the hand is already taken. He is clamped, I control him. A capture using two hands needs the same principle. It is not necessary to concentrate on one hand. I can also move slightly with my feet. I can look where my mobility has remained. My hands are free, so I am able to strike blows. I strike and change his body's position. I help myself using my second hand. I also help using my foot. My hands are free so that I strike a blow into his body, change his position, displace myself aside, take away the hand and transform the movement in control position.